Yes, sir. We are back. What in the Metaverse podcast, episode 12. It is going down today. We got a special guest on today. We got Adam, and Adam's coming to talk to us about a really, really, really cool project. And that project is Play Shutdown. So glad to have you on, Adam. And
thanks for having me, guys.
Can't forget
introduce yourself. Don't worry about me.
Oh, I gotta talk about my amazing co-host. What do you mean? Don't forget about you. But let's get to Adam. Shout out Jay Cluster.
Oh, we're skipping Jake. We're skipping Cluster, man. Oh.
Nah.
All right. I'll give you the quick rundown. Cliff notes here. So I've been developing games since I was about 12. I worked for a couple different studios, doing subcontracting for like Disney, Pixar, a couple big names like that. We do mostly kids games and stuff, obviously. I realized I didn't really like the studio life, so I decided to start my own game, developed it myself. That was like 2015, I want to say, to 2018. I was working 2 other jobs at the time as well. And then I met my co-founder, Houston, or otherwise known as Houston, and we started making a crypto shooter game called Dissolution. That was back in 2018. So I was back when kind of CryptoKitties was popping off and stuff. And we said, hey, what if there was a game that was actually fun, like an actual interactive game, a 3-dimensional game, and not really just kind of this kitty trading game. And then we ended up making crypto games, and now we're making Shutdown, which you guys may have played, may have seen. Still pretty early in development, about a year into development for it. But, should be seeing a release, at least a closed release coming this year. So we're getting there. And yeah, that's pretty much where we're at today.
That's awesome, man. I mean, when we were at 3XP, we saw Play Shutdown a little bit. Me and King Apollo were like super busy, but I saw a few people playing it, and the gameplay looks really smooth, looks really fun. And what I like a lot about it is that it kind of reminds me of Warhammer 40K, like the way that the soldiers look. And I'm a bit of a big nerd for that kind of stuff, so I instantly was like, oh, this looks really cool. So I'm really excited to dive into this project. I don't know about you, King Apollo.
No, I'm super excited, and I kind of want to kick it off. Like, I want to get into it, but I want to start with Adam. Like, you said you worked, and I did a little research on you. You worked for games on Pixar, Disney, and Nickelodeon, and you transitioning now to Web3, and that's kind of like a double transition, right? Because you went from more kids-based games and Web2 games to Web3 games, which is mainly based for adults because it involves crypto and NFTs and things of that nature. So kind of like, how was that transition over?
Well, I'm mostly the game designer, so from my point of view, actually not that much, because a good Web3 game should still have game mechanics. It should still have a playable game with a relatively bug-free experience. There is no such thing as bug-free, of course, in reality, but as few bugs as possible. So there's actually quite a lot of parallels. A lot of people, I think, get kind of hung up on these huge differences. You have to change your mindset in terms of the gameplay has to revolve a bit more around the tokens, of course. You want to add value to those tokens and integrate them well with the game. But I'd say it's like 90% similarity. There's about 10% that's pretty different, but majority-wise, it's actually not that different. The big difference is when you're working with like a huge company like Nickelodeon subcontracting out your company, they really are very inflexible and not open to change at all. And you can tell them your opinion. You can tell them, in my years of 20 years of experience with game design, I don't think this is a good idea. And they're like, that's cool. Some executive somewhere wants this, and so we have to do it. And it doesn't matter how the players feel. It doesn't matter what experience this brings to the player in the game. It just has to be done. And so not having that huge chain of command of 5 or 6 layers above you, and there's nothing you can really do, that is, in my opinion, the biggest change. And the thing I love about Web3, which allows us to integrate directly with our players. We're talking to them. Some of them are funding us. Lots of our players are also our biggest investors, and that's just great. So we have that direct communication with the shareholders in the game.
Okay, so fairly the same, just more intimacy with the community.
Exactly. It's more like you're getting rid of that chain of command, and that really it's not a technical thing at the end of the day, but it is a nice thing when you're working with a game to have, direct communication with your customers. And if a lot of them are saying, hey, we hate this feature, get rid of it, or we really want to see this, you can work towards that very quickly without having to go through months of back and forth meetings with executives.
Exactly. So it's like it kind of flips it on the head, right? Instead of developing a game for a boardroom, you're developing a game for the people who are actually going to play it. So, I mean, that kind of leads to my next question, which would be like, what about Web3 gaming, this new generation of gaming, gets you the most excited? And I think actually you kind of just answered that, didn't you? Or is there anything else about Web3?
Well, there's one more thing I'd add on to that, which is kind of, I see a future of more open source content, otherwise known as like user-generated content. So say, conventionally, you have this team that's working on a game, and they get funding from, say, a publisher in the Web2 space, or subcontracted by a big company like Nickelodeon. They get a lump sum, and they develop the game, they release it. That's kind of the end of the story, usually. That's kind of a conventional model.
Yeah.
But with Web3, you could see, like, in my mind, the end goal, the holy grail of it would be a game that's kind of developed by players. Because I started from a modding background. My first forays into games, I was actually modding Quake, Doom. I did a little bit of Fallout, and those Fallout mods were great. But the reality is, you get nothing back from it. You get no money, and money's not everything. But it allows you to support yourself, so you can actually spend time developing full time, which I could not because I had to, work 2 jobs to pay the bills.
Yeah.
So what I like is, like, in the future we could see more gamers and game developers working on the sidelines on, let's say, like, they're making weapons or they're making skins or whatever, and then selling that in the game through tokens, and then getting money back that helps them support themselves so they can continue to generate good top quality content. And bringing the community directly into development of the game. So we've already gotten rid of a lot of the steps, I feel like all the executives have kind of gone into most of those in the Web3 space. But we could go a step further and get rid of the whole having to have a dedicated team that works for X period of time, and instead have kind of more of a collaborative approach with your community.
Totally. Well, that's so awesome. So, like, I can imagine you're talking about your community. You might have someone who's a talented graphic or 3D designer, and they design like a really cool weapon. They can tokenize that and bring it in the game as long as it maybe fits like a certain standard of, like how many poly counts or whatever, things like that.
Right. You would still need someone, of course, to veto things. Like, you'd still need some kind of administrative executive role. You can't get rid of that completely. I feel like the games could be a total mess. But you would, have some kind of process where they approve it. It passed the poly counts. It works while it's not unbalanced. You're not going to have someone who makes a gun that does like 9,000 damage and every other gun does like 100.
Yeah.
And then obviously everyone's going to want that NFT, of course, because it's going to be super useful in the game. So, you'd have to have some kind of committee of some sorts. It could even be a DAO, perhaps, that would veto the bad ones and filter out the crap, because frankly, most of it probably will be crap. And then you would want to have the good ones rise to the top, and then the financial rewards go to people who are contributing quality content, because there's a lot of modders out there who frankly don't make any money. And a lot of game developers actually have a negative view, like the Web2 space especially. They have kind of we don't like modders, we're not going to support mods. That's kind of the mindset of most games, frankly. There's a couple like Fallout and Skyrim and stuff that encourage it, but this is a minority.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds great, man. Let's dive into the game more. So kind of like explain, like, if you had to give a quick explanation to the audience, like, about the game.
Yeah, so Shutdown is a top-down shooter, and right now it's currently, the mode is a horde survival mode. So you're put into a little arena area, and you have to survive as many waves as you can. And the higher the wave you survive to, the better tokens you'll get. So there's a direct incentive, and there's a difficulty system built pretty much into this, where it's like every wave gets harder and harder. And so, getting to wave 10 is pretty easy. I think most people at 3 XP were just able to get to wave 10-ish, no problem, maybe 7 or 8. And that was anybody, regardless of like their gaming experience. The better gamers who play top-down shooters or shooters in general, they're getting to like 20. But if you want to get to say 30, 40, you're gonna need like a really good team, be on comms, talking to each other. So it's kind of a game I designed with the mindset of super easy to get into and very hard to master. So it's a simple game. You don't need me to explain you all the controls and everything. It's pretty straightforward. But once you get to the higher levels, you have to kind of learn those small strategies. Like if you melee attack an enemy and you kill them, there's more likely they drop loot. So you get more ammo.
Gotcha.
And so this kind of becomes a strategy that becomes pretty important in the later waves, but it's not even relevant in the first 10, 20 waves. So I'm just throwing ammo at you like crazy. It's pretty much impossible to run out of ammo unless you're just shooting every wall you see. So it's kind of all these smaller things, but I really want to make a kind of the opposite of Dissolution, because the Dissolution was the first-person shooter. It was fairly complex. I went down the route of making it too complex, and so it's fairly hard to learn and even harder to master. So this one's a bit different with the design philosophy.
Awesome. I actually I have a, let's get some gameplay up really quick. I have a clip up, and this is a clip from you guys' from the site. And there's a little bit of some gameplay. If we could get it to play.
Come on now.
Well,
try
let me
again.
work on that. Yeah, let's try that again. I don't know what went on there.
Right from their YouTube channel?
Yeah, I mean, this is all right from the site. There you go. Looks like it might be working now. No? All right, well, we'll get to that.
Let me
Clusters.
give it a shot.
Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah.
You got it up? All right, cool. Because it's really cool. That's why I wanted to bring it up, guys. Sorry about that. But it looks really awesome. I looked at it. There we go. There we go. Let's check this out really quick. Well, actually.
What I find the most crazy about this is that you guys are like zooming in and then going back to like the actual perspective, and you can tell both of it is the actual it's gameplay footage, but you're able to like really get close-ups and not really lose any kind of graphical integrity. Like it looks crisp and clean no matter which perspective you're going through, and that's just really cool to see. Like you're going through those plants, and then you see those plants there, and it's like you just literally took a camera and drove through there and took some footage, and that's like actually in-game footage. It's really cool. I love that trailer. It looks really clean. And
our marketing guy Ben, he's a god. You know, props to Ben. He's really good at using the sequencer, which is the Unreal toolkit for letting you kind of take cinematic cameras and plop them around the level like that. So
yeah,
really solid job.
That's really cool.
awesome.
And so that's Unreal Engine 5 or is it
4 actually. I'm a bit of a fanboy of 4 still. Like 5 is cool, has some great features, but it needs a little bit of work still, in my opinion, to be stable enough for a released game.
That's fair. And I mean, you see, like, I think that what I see a lot from a gamer's perspective is they want things, the bleeding edge right away, but then they also don't accept that there's like almost like a law of diminishing returns when it comes to the integrity of a game, right? They're like, why aren't you like upgrading to Unreal Engine 5 right now? And game developers are sitting there being like, I have 20 years of game development experience, and I say no. You know.
And those same gamers would probably complain if there was a bunch of bugs, wouldn't they? Right?
Exactly.
100%. Gamers are gonna
So
complain regardless.
that's a fact. But
We're
yeah,
never happy.
yeah, the gamers are never happy. I've learned that over my many years. But at the end of the day, the diminished returns are even greater than ever. If it was, I'd say 10, 15 years ago, back when, like, say, Crisis was coming out, the first Crisis, and
Yeah.
graphics, the war was hot. It was a fiery war. You were seeing massive changes year to year on how games looked. Now it's like, oh, we have better hair simulation, and we got, like, gigantic worlds, but not every game needs gigantic worlds like Shutdown. Like, I don't need endless, procedurally generated levels. It's not a thing for this kind of game. So, you know, the returns are very small, but the expenses can be huge, especially because we're aiming. Like, I'm developing this for also mobile in the end. So,
Yeah.
mobile is still at least a year away. It's pretty far out. We're doing PC first, but considering mobile is in mind, Unreal 5, you can't use Lumen, you can't use Nanite. So a lot of these really cool features it has, that also, by the way, don't even work yet, aren't relevant. So yeah, gamers love Bleeding Edge until time comes to pay for it with bugs or jankiness.
Yeah. So you said mobile, and when I was looking over you guys' stuff, I seen that you guys had cross-platform in there as a goal in the future. Now, is that cross-platform between PC and mobile, or is that cross-platform all around the board?
Ideally, all around the board. I mean, the perfect world where Shutdown was terrific, I'd love to have console, mobile, and PC. Because console has gotten a lot easier in the past 10 years or so to get onto. Before it used to be fairly expensive and a huge pain in the butt. Now it's a lot cheaper, less of a pain in the butt. So cross-play across all of them, probably. We'd have to kind of see. I think in games that are shooters like FPS, it doesn't work very well because you have a distinct disadvantage on a mobile control set, and the
Yeah.
game has to be significantly changed. However, this game is kind of, you just scroll around and you shoot. It's played on 2 dimensions, essentially. So I think, mobile phones, they're pretty fantastic. They've gotten a lot better the past couple of years, and this game is pretty simple. So we'll experiment with it. We'll see if it makes sense. If it doesn't, we won't do it. But that's still pretty far in the future, so I can't give you any concrete answers on it yet.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I can imagine one of the biggest hurdles about getting on console is the hurdle that I think every Web3 game has, which is please let us have NFTs in a game.
Yeah.
Xbox, PlayStation, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's not a technical challenge anymore. It's become a political challenge, sort of.
Yeah.
So
I think we see the tides turning a bit though with that. You got bigger IPs like Madden and Fortnite actually incorporating the Nike swoosh stuff into it. I mean, Fortnite wasn't really incorporated, more of a themed creative, but from talks of it, Madden's supposed to be added in. So if these bigger guys are like kind of setting the tone of like, all right, this is all right. Like, it's not bad to have a portion of it somewhere in here. I feel like the future is looking a little brighter for it. So
definitely,
Yeah.
I tend to agree with that. I think, perhaps some of the madness of the bull market last year scared away a lot of people, including, big gaming companies like Sony. But with more time, and the bear market tends to bring building and actual products that are solid, I think they're going to probably reconsider. Of course, they're still going to want their cut, so that's going to be, I don't know how that's going to be determined if the game is only making money through NFT sales on third-party sites. I don't know how they're getting the revenue cut. That's the big question with the app stores, too. It's like they want their 30%. How do they get that?
yeah,
So we'll see. A lot of it, I think, at the end of the day, comes down to that, is how they get their commissions. But I'm sure they'll find something. Maybe they bill you, per units moved, you have to pay them X amount, just flat upfront. I don't know. So time will tell.
Yeah, there's got to be some sort of solution. I mean, like, we do see a few Web3 games moving on to mobile recently. Like, Wagme Games it's like a tower defense mobile game, and it's coming out end of July on both Apple and Android. And that's a Web3 game. I'm still like waiting to see how all of the Web3 integration works on that game, to see like what kind of finesse they had to pull in order to make it work. But we also have NFL Rivals. I think NFL Rivals is available on Apple
Yeah.
too, right?
It's on Apple and Google Play Store.
And that one's got 1 million downloads now. And that's a Web3 mobile game. So
Bite City's going mobile too.
Yeah, Bite City's mobile. And then there's Nitro Nation. So there's a few people who I think are paving the way that hopefully should make it pretty easy for Shutdown. I mean, fingers crossed, right? I don't know what the secret sauce is or how they managed to do it, but some Web3 games are figuring it out. So hopefully we can see that. I mean, I would love to be able to play Shutdown on the go for sure. It definitely seems like that type of game where you could be sitting on the train or like on a bus or heck even on a plane and just wiping out a bunch of AI drone zombies, which is kind of getting to my next question. You know, we talked about the gist of the game, but tell me a little bit about the story. Like, where did you guys come up with that, and maybe where is it going?
Yeah, I'm a little scared about the story. I just want to let you know.
The story, it might be a little too close to home, especially these days. Everyone's all hype about AI now, but to sum it up, essentially, humanity creates hyper-intelligent AI and gives them the 3 laws of robotics, kind of, Isaac Asimov kind of play here. And what happens is, one of the laws is, robots must protect humanity. And so they decide, hey, humans are too dangerous to live by themselves unmolested. We need to round up all the humans and put them in padded jail cells, essentially, is what they come up with. We'll feed them a healthy diet, we'll make them exercise, and we'll make sure they live a long and healthy life. But they don't really have that way of thinking about things. AI are really just amalgamating data. They can't really think like, hey, what about freedom? What about, having a good life, doing things you want to do? So it ends up in war, essentially, with the humans pretty much getting almost wiped out. Then your character, the mongrel, to fight these AI, he decides, like, I need to integrate partially with them, but where do you draw the line? It's not black and white of how much. Like, he starts to replace parts of his body. He starts to get augmentations because he needs that. He needs to have, like, infrared vision, to be able to see them at night. So you start to go down this line. There's other people like him, kind of these half-breed, half-human, half-AI, because you need their technology to be able to fight them. But if you go too far, it's easy to become a hull, as you've seen in the game. That's what zombies are called, where AI has taken them over, and they're just completely zombie-like creatures. There's other drones, too. Like, the actual AI have robots, and they have humans they've kind of co-opted and turned into essentially zombies. They look like zombies. They act like zombies. But those are actually supposed to be AI-controlled humans. They're not the classic virus-caused zombie. They're the human AI-built zombie. And so that's kind of the story is kind of a question of how much AI is too far. Where do we draw the line? It's the brain-computer interface a good idea. Well, who knows? In this storyline, it didn't end up being a good idea. But
got you.
Yeah.
That kind of reminds me of Cyberpunk a little bit. Yeah, like the anime. If you watch that anime, that's a good anime.
I haven't watched it, but I know the game, obviously, Cyberpunk. There's definitely some elements of that. Although the AI in this is definitely more pervasive, and they are winning the battle, essentially, with the current story of Shutdown. So the humans are definitely losing. There's pretty much no pure humans, pure blood humans left. They all have some augmentation. So.
Gotcha. That's a very interesting storyline. And was this like a team? Do you guys have a writer who kind of came up with this, or is it like a team kind of thing?
It's pretty much just me. Obviously we all help. Everyone on the team helps, but I had the original idea like back in 2016. Actually, I was in Hawaii. I just kind of was bored, so I started brainstorming. I was on like a family vacation. There's a whole bunch of old white people in like Hawaii, and I was like, I'm gonna start brainstorming like what I think kind of cool dystopian storyline would be. And came up with that, and then we ended up using it for Shutdown.
I love it.
What's up, man? Awesome. Let's jump into Fuse. let's talk a little bit about Fuse. Fuse is going to be your in-game currency. Also seeing that it's fermenting, battle pass, boost, and potentially governance. So you want to kind of give a little insight on what Fuse is going to be?
Yeah. So this is all, of course, to be decided, subject to change. Standard disclaimer.
Okay.
We haven't launched it yet, but Fuse will be our ERC20 that will take care of in-game purchases, upgrades to the characters, augmentations, as I like to call them. I'm not sure that name, but upgrading your NFTs, your characters, and those characters will be earned. They're called pilots, as the general term is now. They're going to be earned by playing the game, like I said, get to high waves, and then you can augment further using Fuse. How we're going to drop Fuse and how you're going to earn it is still to be decided. We might not even have a mechanic to earn directly in the game. It might be something that is kind of just for monetization purposes, similar to like buying a premium cards from like your game. Whereas earning the NFTs, you play the game earn those higher waves, better characters, essentially. So play wave 10, the character gets to be pretty trash, honestly. But you play a wave 40, you're gonna get like freaking stellar, like maybe like 1 of 10 character. So
Gotcha.
yeah, that's what Fuse is at the moment. Again, we haven't minted it. We're still fairly flexible. Probably going to be doing a sale sometime at the end of the year, early next year, but that's still also to be decided, the exact date.
Okay. All right.
Awesome.
Well,
yeah, I mean, like, I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye out for that because it seems like a good opportunity for me. Like, I'm kind of getting pretty bullish on your guys' game, so I shouldn't say that word. King doesn't like it when I say that word.
just hear it at work all day.
It's okay.
Wait, you're at work all day?
Yeah, I facilitate stock meetings. So
okay.
when you go from work and then it's like I go to the gaming space to try to game, and I hear it a lot. But it's just the space that we're in. Like I've learned to kind of like just keep it moving.
That's a good question, Ghost Cat. Hey, I like Ghost Cat's question.
Okay. Ghost Cat says, so do they have a collection out right now?
No, we do not. The game is not released, and we're pretty big on only selling these NFTs when they're pretty much ready to be used in the game, are ready to be used in the game. The game may not be live to everybody at that point, but it will be live to people who hold their token, of course. So
okay, that's good. Thank you for doing that, because a lot of people make us wait for 2 years before we can actually play a game after we buy NFT. So
yeah,
and I'd say a lot of you be waiting for indefinitely, pretty much, to be honest.
Yeah, well, it gets hectic sometimes. So yeah. Q4 is open beta launch. What can we expect on that?
I would say a pretty playable game. Web 2 standards for an indie title. It's not going to be early access. It's going to be pretty buttoned down.
Okay.
Of course, idealistic, subject to change. Game timelines go, but I think kind of worst case, Q4 might not be open beta. It might be a closed beta, and if I'm not happy with the polish situation, we might hold off for a month or two. But within, a month or two at the end of the year, you should be definitely seeing a public playable game that's got the horde mode. They'll have, 10 or so weapons, characters, the first mint. And that would be, a pretty solid first release. May do 2 maps, maybe 2 or 3 maps for the first release. We're still kind of deciding exactly how many maps. Maps aren't as big of a focus anymore. We used to kind of have a dungeon crawler mode. Well, we still have it. We're just not releasing it because too many people are getting kind of lost and it's getting confusing. And we need to really work on that. It's a huge infrastructure project to make a large dungeon crawler level. It's 20 minutes of gameplay versus this game mode is much quicker to develop and test. So we're going to kind of just stick with the horde mode, but it's possible in the future we drop a little surprise on people's heads.
Awesome. I mean, I'm excited. Me personally, I don't know. Were you guys giving out beta access at 3XP?
No. Right now, we're probably limited to our our previous supporters who helped with like Dissolution, like our token holders from that project, and a couple other unique people like our investors and stuff. You know, I'd say if you're interested in access, though, obviously hit us up. We can put you on like the whitelist for the closed beta. You know, this first release comes the closed alpha, which is going to be, you know, a little bit janky. Not all the features are in there. I'm released to kind of just probably 100, 200 people just for, you know, very small sample of the most important things I need to fix. And then I'll focus on those, and then we'll do closed beta.
Because I'm like itching to get in. I'm like, I want to play this game today. Like, let me in. So, I mean,
yeah, hit us up.
Inquiring minds want to know.
We'll make sure you get it as soon as possible. So.
Sounds good. So you're talking about indie development. So this is, I would call like an indie title, right?
Definitely.
And I mean, like you could say that indie developers have created probably some of the best games in like the past 20 years. So now that Web3 is a part of the picture, you've worked on some indie titles, I think, probably, right? Like you've been in different levels of game development studios. You've talked about you were working in like Pixar and Disney and Nickelodeon, but you also talked about being just like doing modding for yourself, and then Dissolution I would call probably an indie game, maybe. I don't really know what your guys' team was, but
it was extremely indie.
So you've kind of got some experience on that, but how does Web3 enhance and give developers new ways to engage their player base? Like, what kind of opportunities are there for indie games now with Web3 that wasn't there before?
Well, frankly speaking, it's the money, it's the financing. So with a conventional indie studio, how most of the big ones start, like if you think about, say, Minecraft, right? Probably one of the biggest indie games of all time. It was a guy who worked at a drugstore, Notch, worked at a freaking drugstore, and developed it on the side. And, you know, that's great. It's an amazing story. It worked out well because this game was on Java and it was very simplistic in terms of graphics and everything. However, this doesn't really allow you to build like games like even Shutdown, right? Where, you know, we took on funding, and the great thing is lots of our people who funded us actually play the game, and people who support us in the past, bought our tokens, play the game. So it's a more direct funding model versus the Web2 space. You know, conventional publisher model is awful, frankly, and they're very selective. They want to take games that are not too risky because they want to make a return on investment, obviously, which is fair enough, but they're very risk off. So they don't want you to experiment too much with mechanics. You know, they want you to take another game, copy 95% of it, change up the story and the graphics a little bit, and then call it a day. So this has kind of led to what I say is just the great stagnation in AAA gaming, and even AA to an extent. It's really most of the games play like a kind of clone of something else, and you know it's sad really because gaming used to be like huge. You have like new genres coming in and stuff, but now it's like seeing a unique story is rare. So that's the biggest thing I see Web3 is allows it. Like, your funding can come directly from your players. People can invest in your game, buy your tokens, and spend them in the game. And it's like this more circular kind of economy almost, whereas you see in regular route, it's a big publisher. They front the capital. They own the project. They'll pay you a small royalty afterwards if it's successful. And then, you know, it's just kind of this like factory almost, but this manufacturing line kind of industrial age mindset, it doesn't work so well with games, which are kind of like half art, half science. Creativity is still very important. So assembly line doesn't really make a ton of sense. We're not making cars here. We're making creative products for people to enjoy. So, yeah, I think that model is not long for this world. I feel like the Web2 conventional publisher AAA model has got, you know, a decade or two left before it either dies out or is severely changed to be something more sensible.
I love to hear that because I mean, I've been a gamer forever, right? I started playing like early Warcraft. I don't even think it was like the full Warcraft and Blizzard and like Duke Nukem 3D and things like that, right?
Early 90s, late 90s.
Late 90s sort of games. And things were so new. There was always something new, and even like the RTS category, for example, there was new things, and then it just so stagnant. And
Yeah.
you don't see RTS games coming out now because it's like, why? All the good ones have already been made, pretty much, right?
Yeah, for
But
sure.
same thing with every other game, and I got so sick of it that I actually almost quit gaming because I was like, do I just keep playing the same games over and over again? Like it's not any different. Star Wars Battlefield is the same as Star Wars Battlefield 2, which is the same as Battlefield, which is
It's Battlefield 4 and Battlefield
yeah.
3 and yeah.
Right.
So I started getting sick of it, and I've been noticing that Web3 is shaking things up. So I mean, that's kind of what this whole podcast is about. So like hearing you say that gets me really excited, for sure.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat, man. Like I'd say by the time if I date, I'd say Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4 kind of timeline. I'd say it was at 2013, 2014. You can kind of see, and that's kind of when I think the technology essentially peaked, where the games were realistic looking enough. You know, it wasn't Duke Nukem or Doom anymore. It was pretty photorealistic. You had pretty massive levels. Like at that point, the technology kind of stopped advancing as rapidly in terms of what you get. That the diminishing return on investment hit hard. And I think at this point, those publishers, a lot of them had been coasting off this graphics war, which is easy, right, for an executive at EA. When you say, hey, look, this game is going to look way better, it's going to have way bigger maps. They like those kind of just like it's very mathematical. They can see, oh, okay, well, this map is twice as big and the graphics are, 100% better. Okay, this game's going to just kill it, right? And then once the graphic war, I wouldn't say ended because it never did end. It just kind of went into a sort of hibernation, a slowdown, if you will, this Cold War. And now they don't know what to do. They're kind of lost because there's no longer graphics war to fight. So I think now they're going to have to realize and start changing things and start moving towards, more creativity, more freedom, more flexibility with the people they bring on these publishing deals. Or they're just gonna slowly die out. So I'm hopeful. I don't want to be pessimistic because I was for a bit. I was kind of like quitting gaming. I was like, oh, screw this. Like, there's nothing worth playing. Just play my old game library again and again. Every so often got old, and I'm hopeful though. I've seen like a few things coming out that are in this space that are giving me some hope. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. I feel like over the next year or so, we should get some really solid titles that'll help kind of solidify the space. And because a lot of the argument is like, oh, those games look like shit. And, like, or this is this, or it's not, so hopefully it's bigger games. Like, it's a lot that we're actually, I could say like at least like 4 or 5 at 3XP that were like really good graphics. Really well built out games that are coming out over the next year or so. So
yeah, there's definitely something like that. I played The Machines. I don't know if you guys played that.
was that is that one of the ones I'm telling
There's
you, I
often
really didn't get to play anything. It was so
yeah,
busy for us. Yeah.
it was solid. I think it was made by like the same team that did Axie, Sky
Mhm.
Mavis.
Oh,
But it's actually a game and it's fun and it's well designed and it's looks decent. So I was like, okay, they've clearly put gameplay first, which is important. A lot of games weren't doing that the last year or two, frankly. And yeah, frankly, people a lot of like the conventional, Web 2 gamers definitely got pretty irate about Web 3 the past couple of years, and I can't blame them because if you just kind of look from the outside, there's a lot of dreck pretty much just kind of blocking the good stuff. And so the good thing I think is that next couple of years with the bear market, we're going to kind of see some of that dreck float away, and then some more quality projects take the spotlight. And then we know that comes with things like being accepted by game consoles and being accepted by Web 2 gamers will come along with that. So yeah, we're going to wait and see, right? We have to wait and see on this.
okay. Well, we usually host a segment towards the end of our podcast on like kind of like the regular days where we don't do like interviews like this. And it focuses on cybersecurity, one of Jay Cluster's favorite things. So we tend to ask games like, where do you guys prioritize privacy and security for your players? A lot of people like myself and Cluster and like friends that we have, we are in a lot of games and projects, and our wallets are tied to a lot of stuff. So connecting is very like I hesitate a lot to connect my wallet to anything. So like, what are the measures you guys kind of take to build comfortability and actually secure your players' information?
Yeah, that's a great question. And security is top of my mind too, because we've seen lots of games get hacked, where they leave some client side code that lets the player just mint stuff to their wallet. And then from the game point of view, people can just mint all your best tokens without paying any money or playing the game at all, even. As a company, you're pretty much screwed. You're going to lose all your money, essentially, and everything's going to zero. So security is first and foremost. I will say I'm not the back end guy, so I'm not going to give you a deep technical answer on this. That would be
Yeah.
Jacob's role. He's doing the back end, which is called Xenum. I don't know if you saw that. We have our own back end solution we're kind of developing. But
Yeah.
it's multi-chain, and essentially we just send the token to your wallet if you want to cash out. So we just take your public address and we send you the token. So we have a hybrid system, which is to bring in regular gamers as well. So it's email, password, very standard. AWS servers. It's encrypted. It's stored in a salted file somewhere. It's not going to be any more at risk than a regular game email password. And obviously, it has no access to your crypto wallets. Then, if you want to what we call ascend your item, which is take it to the blockchain, we're multi-chain, so you kind of pick what chain you want. So it could be maybe you're using Polkadot, maybe you're using base ETH if you're rich. Whatever your poison of choice. They're using Wax, who knows? Whatever you want, you select it, and then you pay the fees associated, and we're going to send that item to you, to your wallet. So at no point do we take custody of your wallet. We're asking you to sign anything. So it's we're not. Your keys aren't at risk. Essentially,
That's
is the goal
awesome.
here because we don't want to be storing anyone's keys, frankly, because custodial wallets are a lot of risk, a lot of responsibility, and I think for most people, a hybrid solution is best because I kind of equate this to electric cars, right? Even today, we don't have electric cars taking over the roads; they're a minority, and a big step was the hybrid car. Prius came
Yeah.
out, and that really proved that hey, putting a battery in a car can be beneficial to fuel economy and general drivability on your air conditioning without having to have your engine run. So you can be stopped there and enjoy your AC and not be idling this big engine just to run your air conditioning. So I'd say small incremental improvements to its community space. The first one developing the hybrid backend. So you don't need a wallet option. You can cash at any time. But you don't have to have it. It's just small items. You have a bunch of potions or something in your games. You don't need to go pay gas fees to bring this to your wallet. Why would you? So if you have, like, say, a really rare character, you have different characters like 1 to 10 or 1 to 20, and you really want your wallet to be open and it's not. If I ask, you want to take the tokens, or whatever you want to do with that, and you can pay the fee associated with that. There's no margin, I believe it's like 2%, still kind of talks with it, and then it's in your wallet. So
Got you.
that's the difference right now.
So yeah, I mean that makes a lot of sense to me. I really like the idea of not having to sign a contract or anything like that, and to simply just say, "Here's my wallet address. Send me my assets." And otherwise, so what I expect is what's happening in the back end of Shutdown is there's probably some sort of like zero knowledge roll up technology or something where they do all of the computational work and who gets what asset and who generated what when, and they do all that off chain and then they send it onto the chain, right? So they send it onto whatever blockchain you want, and that's how it kind of gets like officially minted.
Yeah.
Um,
Maybe
yeah,
look at ZK. I can't talk too much about how it works. I'm not knowledgeable about it, but we talk about ZK and a couple of trust technologies in space that allow for this hybridized system to really work and keep everyone's information. And more importantly, everyone's items safe.
Awesome, man.
Cool.
Custer, do you want to take the big boy?
The final question.
The final.
Yes, sir. Are you ready, Adam?
All right.
Okay. This is a question we were asking a lot at 3XP when we were doing interviews with different projects, and we got a lot of really cool answers. So I kind of like it, and it kind of just points towards the reality that we're all in. Web3 is faced with a number of challenges. Those challenges, uh, they're big, they're small, but they're really sort of in the way of us sort of reaching mass adoption, that kind of a thing. So if you could snap your fingers and solve one Web3 problem instantly, what would it be?
This is a good question. I think the biggest problem we face right now is not technological, it's more political, as I said before. I think the biggest problem we could just get rid of it with no effort. I would say there needs to be some way for people to have ownership of their assets without having to hand over ownership of their keys, right? Or without having a risk, because there's too many scams, and those
Yeah.
scams, frankly, are bad because other people see them, and if they see that as the first thing they see in the Web3 space, they're going to just write it off, and I'm not going to go there, right? And so we need those games. We need to have more than just a few percent of the gaming market come on board with Web3, because otherwise we're not going to have the consoles, we're not going to have the app stores, not easily anyhow. And all these other things kind of fall into place based on that. People need to have trust that these systems will just work instead of having to trust in, us, or trust in something. They need to have essentially how a smart contract works. You kind of see it, and the technology exists. There's ZK, there's smart contracts. So what we're working on is really just implementing this technology, and that way you can have this system where you don't have to just trust that this is not a scam and trust in the developers. You can actually just have your items and own them. And that way, that's the whole benefit of Web3. Everyone always talks about true ownership, but very few people actually implement it. So that's what's going to be the big change. Like I said, it's not technical. This is more about just political. A lot of people are too busy with whatever it is, raising money. They're too busy with making the game. Whatever gets them into that, and they're not thinking enough about the back end and the actual Web3 integration side, which is the huge thing. That's why we have a whole other team, the Zeta team, working on the back end side of things. And they're almost the same size as our game design team for Shutdown. So, this is a big challenge, and there's a lot of back ends out there. There's tons of them, Stardust, all these ones out there, IMX, and there's lots of great products being built. But again, we have to actually see these tools being used. Having great tools is step one, but actually be able to use these tools, step two. So if I could just get rid of the challenge, I would choose to just get rid of the whole back-end challenge. Have one great, easy-to-use solution that's like the equivalent of Unreal Engine, but for back-end for crypto games, because Unreal Engine is a huge force multiplier. Without Unreal Engine, we wouldn't be here today. There'd be no Shutdown. When I started game development 20 years ago, I kind of dreamed of this kind of a tool. So I can't really say exactly what this tool is like 100% today, but I can tell you it needs to be a lot safer, a lot more secure, a lot easier to get into than what we currently have today.
So you're thinking like you could snap your fingers, it would just be to like solve the entire backend solution, create essentially like one standardized, maybe like an API or something that just connects to like a multi-chain sort of faucet or something, and the game just needs to follow this standard, and then it just works and it's secure and there's no loopholes, it's a watertight solution. That's kind of what you're saying. Good answer.
Exactly. Just something I just make the API calls to the game, and it works, and it's like using a smart contract, except for doesn't cost a fortune, and doesn't take forever. So those are the two other big requirements. It has to be quick. It has to be cheap. But something that anyone can verify. Anyone can look at the code for it. It's not managed by some central entity that can randomly change their mind, or they can run off with the bag, or whatever the hell might happen. That kind of stuff needs to go the way of the dodo for this industry to really flourish.
Awesome.
Got it.
Yeah, we don't want to take too much more of your time. I know you kind of had a hard cutoff at an hour, so I think we nailed it. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing all your insights about Play Shutdown, because I'm really excited about this game. I don't know if you've ever heard of a game called Space Hulk. It's
I've never heard, but never played it.
Yeah, so it originally was a board game, like a RPG. Anyways, the point is it just gives me those vibes, and I'm a nostalgic kind of person when it comes to that kind of stuff. So I'm really excited to be able to jump in and showcase this game on my stream and make some content about it. It's gonna be a highlight for me. King Apollo, do you have anything else you want to say?
Yeah, same. Likewise. I'm excited. Glad we can get you in to hear more about it. And I feel like these talks help me kind of like vet the project a little better when I actually talk to somebody at the top. And also why we do it, so that these guys can hear it as well. So if there's anything else that you would like to say that maybe you didn't get to say today that about the project really quick before we go, we can go ahead and give you the floor and you can do your thing.
Not much more. Just if you guys are interested in listening out there, check us out on Twitter. We're at Play Shutdown. And if you send us a message, you say you're watching the stream, who knows? Maybe you'll get whitelisted, maybe you won't. For some closed alpha access, we'd love to have a couple more testers. And of course, you too, Cluster and King, if you guys want to hop on, shoot us a message after the show.
Yeah.
Get you guys sorted out as soon as possible.
I'll definitely
make sure. Send them a message and say, I was on What in the Metaverse podcast and I was listening to Adam speak, and I'm just, so excited about this game, and, grovel and bow down and beg.
Probably not required, but it is appreciated. Yeah.
All right. Well, like I said, man, it was a pleasure having you on today. Would love to have you back on maybe when we get closer to that release. And well, hope you have a great day.
For sure, man. Nice talking to you guys, and I'll see you in the future, I'm sure.
All right. All right, guys. That's episode 12. Chat, we're out of here. We'll see you guys later. Next week. So.
Yep.